Are you guys ready? First, I want to thank you for staying so long. I know it's Saturday, weather is awesome, it's weekend. I will try to be short, concise, and to give you some useful tips so you can use them actually on Monday morning. This is my goal. And if you can, circle back next week and let me know, have you done any of what we will talk today? I will appreciate that. So today we will talk about power of user interviews. It was the year 1970 and a group of Italians went to Africa, went to the beautiful valley of River Zambezi to help locals and teach them how to grow food. So they wanted to help them and teach them how to grow tomato and zucchini. That's easy, right? Sounds successful, the weather is nice, the land is fertile, there is a sun, success is guaranteed. So they bring their own best people, they bring the best seeds, they come together. The locals, they were not really happy with the guests, and they tried to pay them to come and help them and to teach them. Sometimes they even showed up. So the time passed, and the tomato, you know, in Italy, tomatoes, they are perfect, like this size, while in Africa, they grew this size. So, perfect. Until one night when the field was all colored in red, until one night a bunch of hippos come out of the river and ate the tomato. So, can you imagine a group of Italians coming and seeing this and being like, Mamma mia, what happened? How come the hippos? And they were like, well, there are hippos in the river. Well, why nobody told us that? Well, you didn't ask. But, you know, now they know the reason why there is no agriculture in the area because of the hippos. But they thought, thank God we are here, we will help you. But they didn't ask why you don't have agriculture developed in this area. So they were doing things based on assumptions, just like many of us sometimes build things based on assumptions. So my name is Dragana Grbic, and I'm running a product discovery agency. We do discovery as a service. For the past 15 years, I'm trying to save founders from building products based on assumptions. I was working 7 years in a digital agency where we will work closely with early stage startups. And I've seen many times like a repeatable process. We ship things, nobody uses them, they spend money, they don't return, we don't have a business running, and we do it all over. And the team felt unsatisfied, unmotivated, the business was hard, you know, we always had to try to find new people to do things for them. So out of my own pain and our pain, we kind of developed systems and practices and, you know, learned how to make and how to build better products. So out of that, we included discovery as a mandatory part of our process. We introduced a mandatory step to, that was a part of a service, that was a part of a paid service. So first we would sell a discovery, then we would sell the entire delivery process, and then it would be ongoing. But we had to make sure that what we are building actually makes sense and someone will use it. And then 7 years after, and a couple of startups run successfully from the agency, I left and took it on my own, built the agency, and to this date, I'm trying to help other people to do the same. So I'm writing constantly on LinkedIn about this. If you want, you can add me there, send me a message next week to see how things are working. But before we start, can you quickly scan a code and answer me a question I will share? There is no better way but to switch my screen. But let's see, what's your role? Oh, sorry again. Sorry. Okay. All good? Let's see.
Can you show the
I can. Okay. Nice. Now, if you have done it, can you move to the next question? Do you do product discovery? I'm very curious to know this. Wow. Are you guys being honest?
Yes.
I don't believe them.
Me neither, but all of you 11, please reach out after. I'm very curious to hear. Okay, this is very interesting. And for those of you who don't, what's your excuse? Why don't you do it? No one? No excuses? Oh. I assume everything is okay. No customer exposure. Not allowed to talk to users or not allowed to talk why you're not doing it?
To users, to customers.
Is anyone else writing, or we can move on? I see someone else is writing. We'll wait. In cases when there is no customer exposure, you may try to reach out to sales team or customer support team and talk to them instead of talking directly to users. If product is developed, from my perspective, product development is not definite. So it's indefinite rather than we developed a product, that's it. That's rarely a case. So there has to be a room for improvement, at least a little bit. Okay, thank you for sharing these. Now I will move on to the presentation. Okay, so today we are going to talk about why user interviews, why should you do them, how to do them, and what happens next, so what happens after you do them. So to start off with user interviews and why should we do them? Well, I always say that when we do discovery, and I'm surprised that we didn't talk a lot about and mention product discovery. I know Phil touched it a little bit, but building the right thing is what we should first make sure as a product managers, and then we try with the product discovery and trying to de-risk things, and later on we make sure to build things right. Because if we, just like those Italians, they thought they were doing the right thing, but they didn't ask questions, so they didn't kind of validate and de-risk those things. But if you make sure that whatever you're doing is right and gives value to end users, then you will find a way to build it. And even if you're building a right thing with lousy UX and it gives value, people will most likely use it or find a way to use it. But if you're not building the right thing, but you perfectly crafted it, I'm not sure that's going to be the case. So why user interviews? Because with them, we will try to make sure that we're building the right thing. So we will talk with people and we will get an insight that will help us decide what is the right thing to do and what is the right thing to build. Now, in this graph, you can see different ways we can get insights. Some of them are attitudinal, like how people act, and what is their attitude, and the behavioral, like how do they behave. We do that with usability testing. We do that with A/B testing, analytics. Some of them are qualitative, some of them are quantitative. But the user interviews, as you can see below, they are at the bottom left, like attitudinal and qualitative. So we get to see the quality. With surveys, we kind of do the similar thing, but we get the numbers. We know that a lot of people abandon our cart, but we don't know why. But with user interviews, you can figure out why. When you talk with them, you can figure out that maybe it's because you said it's free shipping, but somehow it showed up. So interviews allow us to understand the why behind user behavior, while surveys give you just sentiments and can be misleading sometimes, especially if those surveys are not presented to the right audience. So if you're asking wrong people about the opinion or situation. So what kind of interviews we can do? We can do in-person interviews. We can do remote interviews. Now today, most of the cases, those are the remote interviews because, well, we all live in this world. They can be one-on-one and they can be like a focus group. So you put a bunch of people in a room and you discuss with them, and they can be moderated or unmoderated. So you can just throw papers, show them prototypes and let them speak to you, or you can moderate it with a set of questions and you can lead them through the discussion. The best way, from my perspective, if you can, is to do it in person, because in person, you will have that fifth element that you cannot feel and sense when you are talking remotely. So you can see all those tiny movements and you can sense how they are like eye rolling or are getting nervous or whatever it is. Then it should be one-on-one versus a group, because people tend to you make a relationship with them when you talk, and they tend to open more than when you put like 5 people in the room. They may not speak freely sometime for any reason. So if it is one-on-one, that would be probably the better way, and moderated as well. So you kind of lead them through with one goal in mind that you have. How many interviews are enough? When do we start? What do you think? Can you just give me, this is the last one, but can you give me your opinion? How many is enough? When do we start? When do we stop?
When the problem for one position?
From your perspective, yeah.
When all is clear. Everything is clear. And it's clear.
How many? I need a number.
With the same user or not?
25, 30.
At what point you will say, okay, we've done enough interviews?
Oh, okay.
Population.
It depends. Phil, put another line.
I assume you're talking exactly in the context of one given problem you're trying to solve.
Yes, so we have one goal, and we say we will do X number of interviews, and this is it for this round. So what would be the number from your perspective? Let me see what you said. All done? Yeah? 5 to 8 is a correct answer.
Why?
Congrats to why.
Why?
Why? I will tell you why. Have you ever done a user interview? Have you ever gone through the process of recruiting people for user interviews? How long does it take?
Pretty much longer. It's huge work. Very interesting, very needable.
You know, majority of you told 8, like 20 plus interviews. I spent 9 months recruiting 15 people for user interviews. You don't have that much time. What?
Like, it depends on products. Some products
It depends.
are taking 25.
Yes, I know. What? With 5 to 8 interviews within that range, and after you start talking to more people, you will notice trends. You will notice repeatable answers. So 5 to 8 at once, you know, in one circle, and then you refine and you refine. But first you go and talk like 7 people, 6, 7 people. You analyze, you get insights, you tweak a little bit the questions, you know, the target group, and then you do it all over. And you're continuously, it shouldn't be a one-time thing, so it should be continuous. And it's good that most of you said that you're doing it continuously. So, but having it, because if you're trying to find 20 people to talk to within a month, it will take you time to find them. It will take time to do the interviews. Even if it's half an hour, you need to have some spare time before. You have to have some time afterwards to analyze things. It takes a lot. But if you do it in small chunks and you do it repeatedly every week, every 2 weeks, you will get more and more insights, and you will get in depth, and you will know better those people, and you will understand better the problem you're trying to solve. That's why 5 to 8. It's not the number I made up. It's a number based on Dan Olson, and I will pass the blame on him if it's not right. Okay, so 5 to 8. And now the question, how to do that? So first we need to prepare. And with preparation, the first thing we need to do is set the goal. Like, why are we doing this? What kind of thing we want to discover? What are we trying to find out? What are we trying to test? Or what are we trying to evaluate? You set up hypothesis, you want to evaluate. You don't want to validate, because validating means you are potentially trying to find a confirmation on your hypothesis. But when you put the wording differently, when you say, I want to evaluate, does it work or not? Then you give yourself room even for failure and say, no, it doesn't work. I mean, psychologically, it's different when you call things different names. So setting up the goal. What is that we want to achieve? Like, we want to find out how people are renting scooters. Or we want to find out how people are buying clothes online. Something like that. Then you need to set your target. Like, who are we going to talk to? Who are the people who have this problem? Or who are we going to talk to? Like, if it is a scooter, like, we will not talk to people who live in like somewhere in a small villages. We will talk with people who commute to work, who live in big cities. So you kind of do user persona or user persona group if you want to test with different group of people. And you clearly define who are those people, because that will help you with the next step, which is recruiting. And in the recruiting, this might take forever, this might take you fast, depending on what you're doing. It really depends. But sometimes I was working with a client, and when you have an existing user base, it may seem it's easier, but in reality, it doesn't have to be. You still have to reach out to people. You still have to, calculate that they will not show up. You have to hope they will answer your email. Or in some cases, if you do it in person, you can go and physically go in and talk with people who are waiting on a bus station, who are not taking the scooter, but they're waiting for a go-to bus to find out why they are not, why they are waiting for a bus, why they don't rent the scooter which stands next to them. So these are sometimes it can get you longer, sometimes it can get you faster, it depends. But recruiting also, you can do it via online forms, via finding if you define your group well, you can then easily find people probably in Facebook groups that share the passion, or that they're in the industry, or if they are pet owners, you will find a pet lovers group in your neighborhood, and go talk to them, send them a survey, ask them to give you, to sign up for an interview. Usually you will have to give them something in return. Those are, in most cases, those are coupons, like Amazon coupons, or these are, if you are recruiting your existing users, you can share like some points or some sort of service credits, so they can get in return for talking with you. These are all the things that you could use to motivate them to talk to you, spend some time, and give you some insight so you can learn more. Then we do create interview guide. Now that would be a template, a document that would help you go through or survive the interview. So in that, and when you're starting out, surviving an interview really can be a challenging task. So this is why it helps you. This is a template I like to suggest and I like to use, and I share it with people often. And it has some basic things in it. So there is a goal. Now here are some dummy data, but so you get a sense. But first, you need to share your goal. Like to have it clearly written down, not just, okay guys, we're sitting in a room and we verbally decided why do we want to do it, but write it down. So it helps you a lot. Then you do reports, so you really basically write down every single word you're going to talk to a customer. You say, thank you for your time joining, explaining what we will do today. Like today I will ask you some questions, feel free to say if it's uncomfortable, we can skip, go to another question, so on. Always, if it's a remote meeting, then you can ask for permission. I mean, you should ask for permission to record. If they agree, that's a great stuff, so you can revisit later, and you can create gradually a database of all the user interviews which you can use at any point in future to figure out something, because maybe people will tell something that may not be related now, but at some point you may revert back to that. And then you write down the questions that you would ask, and you also put at the end like a wrap up of how will you thank user. And I also always suggest sending, after the interview is done, I like to send a thank you email. Again, it makes a little bit more deepened relationship with the user, so you can probably ask them again at some point. You also share the credits, you share the Amazon card, and so on. So you start building a relationship with your users because you are here for them. You also, at the bottom, you will see, I'll share a template with you. At the bottom, you put the participants. So who were the people in the room with you at some point that were listening, and who were the people you were talking to. And I also, if I record a video, I also put a link to the recorded video, so we have it all like nicely organized. This is the interview guide. Scan it, make a copy if you want to have it handy. This may be a good start for you on Monday or Tuesday. Now, what I didn't cover now is are the questions, and we will get to that point shortly. But this is like something you shouldn't very obviously read when you talk with people, but this is something you should have handy next to you so it can help you survive through the meeting. Okay, now the second part is the art of conversation, what we actually do in the interview. Like, how do you behave, how do you talk, and what questions do you ask, and how do you ask those questions? So first is a question funnel. Now, if we are about to find out why people are not using our scooters, even if they are all around the town and they're in a like bright yellow color and clearly noticeable, easy to use, cheap, whatever, we want to start by not just directly asking them that, but you want to start with a broader question, like, how do you go to work? Or when do you go to work, what is the weather like? Like if the weather is worse, if the weather is like rain, how do you go to work? Like how do you make the decision? And how do you go to work when the weather is nice? Or do you commute to work? And these kind of things. So question funnel would start with really wide questions, opening, and like how do you like to spend your spare time? If you want to find out do they like football or basketball, if you're selling basketball props. And then you would go with specific open questions, like what do you like when like watching sports? What do you like about it? And then you go in deeper and deeper and deeper with do you prefer one or another. So you don't straight go to say, why don't you buy a basketball jerseys? Or why don't you buy a basketball? So in the questions, and when you write down, you have to have this funnel in mind, starting broad, and then we have a saying here like kao kiša oko Kragujevca, but you get a point. So you go all around, closely narrowing down. And then the type of the questions. So open versus leading questions. Leading questions often start with, do you like to spend some time watching video games, watching movies with your friends? Or are you worried, are you stressed out when you go every week to a supermarket to buy some groceries? Versus if you ask them, how did you feel last time when you went out to buy groceries? Or can you tell me about the last time you were having fun with your friends? And then you start, what have you done together? What were the fun parts? What was the, can you walk me through a case when you got stressed out at work? Or when you got stressed out when you went out shopping for clothes? And then starting narrowing down to things, or when you're buying clothes online and then you got stressed out because it said free shipping, but at the end they ask you they charge for it. So open questions would start with why, how, and what in most cases, versus leading questions that will lead them and help you bias users and get answers you're expecting to get, and they will not be honest. But if they are not honest, the answers and insights you get will not be correct, and they may lead you to get wrong decisions, and then you know how that goes. So closed-ended questions: do you like our product and services? Yes, I do, most cases. Or why do you find most useful about our product and services? Oh, I really like when you did this and that, like what this feature like this. Or do you find this meeting helpful? Do you? Yes, yes, yeah. Or how do you feel about this meeting? Oh, it was boring. Would you consider using our product and service again? Well, most of the cases they will tell you yes, because they don't want to tell you no, it's shit. But what would make you consider using our product service again? So this is how you would uncover, what kind of thing they liked, what will make them come again. So these kind of questions. Have these questions in mind, because later we will have an exercise where you will actually have to write the questions. And then active listening. When we are doing an interviews, and if you read the book Mom Test, or you heard about it, it's you ask the question and then you shut up. And then you let them talk. Do not interrupt them. You let them talk and talk and talk. Even if there is awkward silence, that may be a good thing because they're thinking about, other stuff. Do not interrupt by any means. Just let them survive the silence. It may lead you to a great jams, some great insights you can get. So actively listen, but also you would, in a normal situation, you would have that guide handy. And you will be nervous to go to the next question. No, talk with them. It's not the end of the world if the time's up, if you didn't ask all the questions, and always have that funnel in your mind when you're talking with them. not all the questions you cannot write down. So you have to find a way to ask the follow-up questions during the conversations, and you cannot make them up. You cannot think about all the follow-up questions that you can ask on that script, on that guide. So you have to actively listen and engage with them to ask real follow-up questions so you can get the insights that you need. And what happens next? Well, you have to analyze the interviews. We do that with spreadsheets, with Miro boards, with FigJam. There are a ton of different templates online that you can use. What I would like to point out is that good things that you said that you're doing it continuously, even though I don't believe, that those would be the living documents. So don't do user interviews once, fill in the document and let it get buried out in your Google Drive or any other drive. These are the living documents that you have to update, and you have to fill them in with new data, new insights that you get. You also polish the personas based on the findings you uncover and the needs they have, the opportunities that there are there. So filling up, always narrowing down the personas, getting as much as detail, one or two, or how many personas you have. Same with insights. Now, what I do is I group them by team or by sentiment. Sometimes I group them by the goal. So what did I want to achieve? What did I want to find out? And then I group them by that. If you're doing it in a Google spreadsheet, there are like good ways to kind of set up the themes or set up the goals that you wanted to track, and like label each of those interviews or each of those insights with it, so you can then get the data when you need it. Collect quotes and collect who said them or how many people said similar things, because sometimes you can get easily biased with, if like you did 12 interviews and you had last two tell you something that others didn't, you can get in a trap of being timely biased, because these are the most recent things you have heard. And when you look at the numbers, it will be just 2 out of 12. So it doesn't really make sense. So this is what I also do. And another tip is, whenever you're doing user interviews, after the interview, book 15 minutes and write down the notes immediately. Like, collect all the insights that you have straight after the meeting, because things can get lost, and you would lose the momentum. And when you do the interviews, things are fresh, you're still in the conversation, you shut down your laptop and just go and write down the notes on the laptop. But have yourself 15 minutes to talk about it. Now, another bonus point here, because I've heard some of you were founders here, is a common mistake I hear and I see is that when founders are doing user interviews and when they hear something that they don't like or something that doesn't match with their expectations, they try to turn the user interview into a sales pitch, and they try to prove a user wrong. Now, this is a very common mistake I want you to be aware of, and try to skip that part. So take them note.
Do you take the notes during the interview?
Sometimes I do, but I don't. If it's recorded call, I don't, because I want to be engaged and actively listen. In some cases, someone from the team joins as well, just as a silent participant, and take notes as well. So we have two different perspectives. Okay. And then right after the call, this is where I'm like unavailable. I have to write down everything that I had.
So you think it doesn't change the quality, or do you think it affects the quality of the conversation when somebody is taking the notes during the interview?
Well, it really depends on your skills. When you're starting out, you will really want to engage with people and not be busy in what will I write down, or let me not forget this one, and they talk and you may miss something. So just talk with them. We all have this mental capacity, like 15 minutes after, to remember what we were discussing, and all the important things will stay in your head and you can write them down. And if you have recording, you can always revisit. And there are a bunch of tools today to get the summaries, get the transcripts, get the notes. But this is, I may be old-fashioned, but pen and paper works charm for me, and then later I put everything in the spreadsheet to do the work. Yeah, and ask other participants to do the same. So if you have a fellow member joining the call, just to be there and listen, ask them to do the same, and then you collect the notes together, combine, and then put them in one document. We spent entire weekend not mentioning AI, and I'm very surprised. Like, really surprised. Can AI help? There is a ton of tools today that can help you speed up the process. Some of them, to be honest, I tried. I used some of them, but just to get a starting point. Like, I feed a system with videos or, the surveys, and then I get some starting points, like give me the interview snapshot, or list me all the pain points related to this goal I want to achieve. And then based on that, I start digging more. But I'm still not sold 100% on them. But they can help you speed up some time, or if you really want to quickly find out, some quote, but you don't know who said it and where, there are tools that can help you collecting all those data and help you bring them up. And then share your findings with your stakeholders, with your peers, with other departments, because we still live in silos era, and keep them up to date. So whenever you're doing interviews and you get insights, it would be a good habit to share what you discovered with your boss once a week or once a month. Here, I talked with 5 people this month. This is what I discovered. And some things may pop up and may help them as well, so they will be thankful you did the work for them. For the team. And another one is make it a habit. There are a million excuses. I hear people say, well, it's hard. We don't know how to do it. I'm uncomfortable talking with people. But making it a habit, talking with one person in 2 weeks, and scheduling that meeting to be recurring, so every 2 weeks you will find someone to talk to. It will give you better value than not talking to anyone and building products blindly. So make it a habit, starting small, and then increase over time until you reach that 5 to 8 customers. So this is my take. Now it's your turn. We have a goal to understand how people split expenses with their peers. So when you go out with your friends, how do you split the bill? This is the goal. We want to discover how this is done, how people behave. So you will have a task. Each one of you, there are post-its in there. I believe questions can be put in 1 or 2 post-its. So each one of you would take and write 5 questions that you would ask on a user interview. Then we will split in pairs with people who you don't know. And you will have an interview, 5 minutes each. So you will ask your question, write down the notes, and then we will make a turn. Do you all have the post-its? You have paper? No? Anyone need a paper?
Yeah. Thank you.
Here you go. So, each one of you write 5 questions, 5 open questions, to find out and understand how people split expenses with their peers. Target is everybody here, because I believe all of you are going to restaurants or to lunch with your colleagues, with your friends, at least once a month. So how do you split the bill, or when you go out? This is the scenario. You and your group of your friends are planning a night at a restaurant. How do you typically handle splitting the bill? So this is the scenario we are in. And you have 5 minutes to write down the 5 questions. And then we will do in pair user interviews. We will spread around the room.